I always say if you're motivated, you don't need a lot of motivation. I mean, I'm like you. I think like a lot of others. I love to run. I still love it. I'm still passionate about it. That passion's never gone away.
Spoštovani in cenjene, zima je tu, kljub mrazu in snegu je podcast Zagret za tek še vedno z vami. Prav tako jaz, vaš gostitelj Marko Roblek. Kako ste? Kaj tečete v teh časih? A vas tole vreme in kratek dan morda držite bolj na suhim, na toplem? Če sem čisto iskren, zadnji teden tudi jaz spadam med slednje. Me pa seveda mika, da bi zdajle zagazil novi sneg s hokicami in jih majčkeno zmočil. Ne vem, ali tudi vas prejejo tisti občutki, ampak tale prvi sneg je vedno nekaj posebnega. Najbrž mi je to ostalo še iz otroštva, moče nam vsem. Ti so navdušenje nad to pomrzeno vodo iz neba, to belino, ki nadomesti dokaj depresivne in rjave barve poslajajoče se jeseni. Tako da neke vrste katarza. Morda grem pa danes še tole sprobat. Da ne bom danes predolgo filozofiral, tokrat je na sporedu izjemna oddaja, tudi te se veselim, kot majhen otrok snega. Z pomočjo prijatelja Klemna mi je namreč v oddajo uspelo zvabiti samega ultramaratonmena, človeka, ki je ultrasceno zadnjih 25 let zaznamoval morda bolje kot kdorkoli drug. Ja, imate prav, v goste pride sam veliki Deana Karnazesa. Ampak za začetek najprej pretresimo aktualnosti. Pretekli vikend smo špegali na 24-urni poskus Kyliana Jorneja, ki je zelo pogumno napovedal, da bo napadel svetovni rekord na stezi na 24 ur in da bo pretekel več kot 300 km. Žal mu ni uspelo, po kakih 11 urah ga je zvilo. Morda ta mladenič poskuša še kdaj, recimo v vremenu, ki je bliže poletnemu kot pa trdi zimi na severu Evrope. Ta vikend pa ne samo špegamo, ampak kar spremljamo maraton v Valenciji. Naša Neja Kršinar v elitni druščini na tem res hitrem maratonu napada ne samo svoj osebni rekord, kani se približati tudi olimpijski normi. Dajmo, Neja! Atletska novica tedna je ponovna izvolitev Romana Dobnikarja na nov 4-letni mandat na čelu Atletske zveze. Tako da, Roman, bravo, čestitke in uspešno naprej. Da ne bo ostalo samo pri navijanju in čestitkah, če ste prijavljeni na maraton v Valenciji, če ste bili, lahko zdaj namesto tega participirate v virtualnem teku. Če med temi izbranci pač niste, pa vam za vas neke druge egzotike. Ta vikend ste lahko udeleženec virtualnih maratonov, recimo v Melbourneu, Avstraliji, ali pa greste na Jamajko, v Negril, ker imajo tudi virtualko. Tako da, noro, opcij, kar jih hočete. Danes smo v celoti ultraško obarvani, zato je tudi znanstveno dejstvo tega tedna v tej maniri. Spletni portal Run Repeat je pred kratkim opravil longitudinalno študijo, kjer je spremljal ultrasceno na ameriški celini in tudi po svetu med leti 1996 in 2018. Medtem ko se v zadnjih letih ostale tekaške prireditve začenjajo bolj kot ne zmanjševati, cela scena je začela stagnirati, ultrascena po drugi strani pa enostavno žari. Medtem ko je v 90-ih letih prejšnjega stoletja udeležba na ultrah bila omejena na ozek krog entuzijastov in fanatikov. Naprimer, v enem letu v Ameriki je leta 96 eno ultra tek daljši od maratona preteklo okoli 35,000 ljudi. Predlani pa je ta številka zrastla že kar za 20-krat. Na izjemnih 600,000 ljudi, kar je že več kot polovica deleža tekačev, ki vsako leto pretečejo cestni maraton. Izjemne številke. Večina od teh tekačev sicer ne teče bistveno dlje od 50 km, ampak nič ne de. vseeno je porast ultra tekaške scene izrazit. Izjemen je tudi porast žensk med udeleženci, ta se bliža 20% vseh, vedno več pa je tudi dirk, ker ženske absolutno zmagujejo, posebej na razdaljah od 200 in več kilometrov. Tako da, bravo, dekleta. Ultraši, za razliko od maratoncev, postajajo tudi vedno mlajši, vsaj povprečno. Povprečna starost udeleženca na ultra teku je okrog 43 let in se še vedno zmanjšuje, za razliko od maratona, kjer se rahlo in še vedno povečuje. V času torej, ko nas še vedno pesti korona, ko je maratonov praktično na svetu zgolj za prste ene roke na mesec in ko niti ne vemo, kdaj se bodo v naših koncih ti množični dogodki spet vrnili, so najboljši izgleda ravno za ultra dogodke, posebej za traile. Ergo, v letu 2021 je torej pričakovati, da se bodo najprej na sceno vrnili ravno ultra dogodki. Fun fact tedna tudi povezan z ultra sceno Marshall Urlih. To je človek, ki je pred leti pretekel ZDA v 52 dneh. Zračunajte, to je približno 100 km na dan v skoraj 2 mesecih. Si je dal odstraniti paste, zdaj to vse nohte na nogah in to trajno. Rekel je, da namesto, da vedno znova lušči proč te črne nohte, jih povezuje, jih luknja, jih rešuje, se je te nadloge zavedno rešil. Kako to zgleda, si pa sami pogooglejte. Tudi brez knjige tedna ta teden seveda ne bo šlo kaj drugega kot kultna, temeljna knjiga, ki je ultratek naredila privlačen, inspirativen in celo seksi. Ultramaratonec, izpovedi neustavljivega tekača, je išla že leta 2005, leta 2009 smo jo dobili v slovenščini in sicer v odličnem prevodu Jureta Capudra. Knjiga je bila že takrat, ko je išla, takojšen svetovni hit dogodivščine nočnega tekača Deana Karnazesa, pa so nekatere že praktično ponarodele. Knjiga je spisana na poljuden, avtobiografski, velikokrat tudi humoren način, vsak odstavek posebej pa je tako živopisen, da vas mika, da bi kar takoj šli ven in tekli vsaj nekaj ur. Knjiga je tako obvezen kos knjižnice vsakega tekača, če še nimate, obvezno si jo nabavite, samo za nekaj evrov jo dobite na spletni strani založbe Sanje, tam imajo akcijsko ceno, je odlično darilo tudi v teh časih, tako da noben ne bo razočaran, če jo bo dobil. In to je knjiga, ki se jo ne naveličate tudi po mnogih branjih, tako kot se pač ne naveličate maratona. Delite, všečkajte, naročite se na ta kanal in če lahko, vas prosim tudi za donacijo. Tale podcast bo zaradi vas še boljši. Ta teden se posebno zahvaljujem Aniti, Ani in Tinetu, hvala vam. Ta epizoda je posvečena vam. No in zdaj, dame in gospodje, zdaj gre pa zares. Deana Karnazes je bil eden izmed 100 najvplivnejših ljudi po svetu na izboru revije Time Magazine. Bil je dobitnik celega kupa športnih nagrad, utekal je vse najtežje svetovne ultramaratone, nekatere celo večkrat. Mnoge projekte onkraj možnega je organiziral in izvedel tudi sam. Utekel je 560 km v kosu, tekel je na plus 55 stopinjah Celzija in na minus 40 stopinjah. Njegov seznam dosežkov je neverjeten, enkrat pa ima plan seveda priti tudi v Slovenijo na prav posebno tekaško misijo. Spoštovani in spoštovane, upam, da boste v temle pogovoru uživali vsaj toliko, kot sem užival jaz. Že vnaprej vas seveda prosim za prizanesljivost ob moji robati angleščini. K sreči besedo v veliki meri prepuščam kar cenjenemu gostu. Za vse gledalce, ki ne znate angleško, sem v video dodal tudi slovenske podnapise. Ne zamerite, če me ob spraševanju enega mojih tekaških idolov včasih malo zanese ali pa se mi zatrese glas. S takimi legendami pač nimam opravka ravno vsak dan. Tako da sedaj snežene Slovenije v sončno Kalifornijo. Dragi tekači in tekačice, prvič v slovenskem prostoru, eden in edini, z mano je Deana Karnazesa.
Run a 200-mile 12-person relay race just by myself, 8 different occasions. I've done Western States 11 times, done a lot of 100-mile races, done some adventure racing, some triathlons. I've run the Badwater ultra marathon 6 times. Actually, I run it 7, but I only made it 6 times.
135 miles through Death Valley in July.
And one time I survived the fastest, as I like to say, so I actually won. I've run 262 miles continuously, which is 10 marathons. I ran 350 miles over the course of 81 hours. One time I ran a marathon in the South Pole. Got down to about minus 40 at one point. It was probably the hairiest thing I've ever done. Doing what I love.
Deana Karnazesa, it's really great to have you here on our show. I'm happy to host the ultramarathon man himself, so thank you for your time and welcome.
It's good to be on your show. Thank you for having me as a guest.
You know, this all started with a joke. I mentioned in one of earlier episodes that let's invite Deana Karnazesa as our special guest, and Clement, my friend, took this seriously and then paired us up so quickly. So now we are talking, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks after I said it. So I have to watch what I wish for because Clement will make it through. So Clement, thank you. I hope you will enjoy the show. I will apologize for my English, Dean. It's not perfect, but I will try my best today.
No, your English is very good.
Thank you. Good. Thank you. I have a lot of questions. We have about 45 minutes, so let's dive in, okay?
Sure.
I really love a quote. The marathon is a life achievement for most people, but for Dean, it's a morning routine. You already ran today, yes?
I do. I like to run early in the morning. I got up this morning at about 4:30 a.m. and I went for a run. Honestly, my motivation has not been as strong as it usually has because I have no races upcoming. Okay. So now I run to stay in good condition.
To stay in good condition. How long is your typical run, let's say?
I like to do 2 runs. So my typical run in the morning is maybe 3 or 4 hours. But this run it's not a competitive run, if you will. Like I take it at my own pace. If I feel like running hard, I'll run real hard and fast. If I feel like just shuffling along and jogging, I'll shuffle along and jog. So there's no time limit and there's no pace limit. I just come as I go.
But do you track all your runs? So let's say, do you have a yearly mileage counted so far? Yeah?
No, not that. I don't keep track yearly. I keep track of each of my runs, so I can certainly go in and look yearly. But okay. I typically, I don't look at my yearly mileage. It's more weekly. It's when I have a training block, it's more weekly mileage and daily mileage. So I keep track. I record all of it, so I could go back and look, but I prefer to look forward than to reflect back.
So if you would train for a race, let's say for 100 miles, how much miles a week you would run?
I would typically run, as far as kilometers, maybe 125 to perhaps 200 kilometers a week, depending on my level of fitness and how my body feels.
So in your 28 year long streak, maybe you know the number just...
It's probably, I would say it's well over 150,000 kilometer, maybe 200 kilometer, 200,000 kilometers.
200,000, yeah.
Yes.
It's about 5 times around the globe, yes? So,
I like it in terms, yes.
These corona lockdowns are tough for everybody, but for you probably especially so. So you have planned an extensive travel and running season for this year, and you were actually on airport or to the airport when this pandemic broke up, right?
I was traveling to the airport to get on a plane to fly overseas, and I got a call from the race director who said the race has been called off. So that was in March, and every race since then has been canceled. So all of my plans for 2020 have been ruined. And so it's been a very unexpected year, but not just for me, for you and for everyone. So the whole world has had an unexpected year.
As I looking back to prepare for this conversation, I found out that we have some things in common. We both started running in 1992. Our first book was published at the tender age of 42. And at 30, we both had a bad tequila. I started running barefoot at 30, but you dedicated your life to running at 30. You wrote this magnificent piece, Ultra Marathon Man, in now 15 years ago, right?
Yes, 15 years. Mm-hmm.
Can you delight our audience with the story how everything started for you?
Well, I used to love to run when I was a young boy. So I remember running home from kindergarten when I was 6 years old. And I ran competitively when I was in what we call high school here. Mm-hmm. So I was on the cross-country team. But at age 15, I decided running was boring. You know, that hey, I had other things to do besides spending all my time running. So I stopped running at age 15. And then I went to university, and then I went to postgraduate school and got a business degree. And I had a very comfortable job and a comfortable living in San Francisco. But something didn't feel right. I didn't like being a business guy. It wasn't who I was. And I was in a nightclub on my 30th birthday doing what many people do. We have a tradition in America. On your 30th birthday, you go out and you drink with your buddies. And at midnight, I told them I was going to leave the nightclub, and they said, "You know, why? Let's have another round of tequila shots." And I said, "No. Instead, I'm going to run 30 miles, so 50 kilometers, to celebrate my 30th birthday." And they said, "You're crazy. You're not even a runner. You know, you're drunk. You're drinking." And I said, "Yeah, I am, but I'm still going to do it." So I walked out of the nightclub, and I'll never forget. I didn't even own running gear, but I had on these silk boxer shorts, you know, underwear. So I peeled off my pants, and in my underwear, I just started running into the night, drunk. And about I don't know, I would say maybe 20, 25 kilometers into this run, my mind started to lose some of the effects of the alcohol. And I thought, what am I doing? This is crazy. But something about it just felt really, really right. So I kept going and ran straight through the night. It wasn't a fast 50 kilometers. It probably took me 7 or 8 hours. And, you know, it wasn't a pretty 50 kilometers. There were very, very hurtful moments and a lot of blisters, you know, and chafing, as you can imagine. But I made it. And that night, it changed the course of my life from that night onward.
So You change a lot of lives. I remember this is the only book that is translated in Slovenian language, Ultra Marathon Man. I have also here your book, 50 Marathons in 50 States in 50 Days. I have your book, Run, 26.2 Stories of Blisters and Bliss. If you would live in a country with metric system, you have to write 42 stories when having marathon book. As I had to write 42 stories to have a marathon book. So you are lucky to have only 26 to write. And your latest book, Road to Sparta, my favorite, if I may say. So it's awesome. It's philosophic. It's history blended with your insights about running. First book, I devoured it, and next year this book was translated in Slovenian language, and it was huge hit. It was actually the first book in Slovenia that was translated about running and started a boom of running books around here. So was you surprised that your first book was so well received around the world, translated, and such a huge bestseller?
Yeah, I mean, I call myself an accidental New York Times bestselling author because it was one of those goals that we all have in our lives. You know, I wanted to try skydiving. You know, I wanted to swim with sharks. And I wanted to write a book. You know, it was something I wanted to do. So I wrote the book, and I thought, you know, if 5 of my friends buy this book, I'll be very lucky. And as you know, it became a global bestseller.
Crazy.
And it wasn't what I was expecting at all, but I think it spoke to a community of people that are like-minded. I mean, I think you and I are kindred spirits. We can relate to each other's struggle. We know some of the same emotions. We hold some of the same philosophies. I think a lot of people that read that book have converted, and even non-runners have said, this book was powerful. I mean, I understand what you go through, and it has meaning. So I was very, very taken aback by the success of that book, and it's unlocked a beautiful community of people that has been so enriching in my life, and hopefully in other people's lives as well.
I first find out about Western states right in your book. So you wrote later that that 100-mile race was a moment when you really find out what is all about running. So you became a runner at the finish line, right?
Yeah, they say of the Western states, I'll never forget, and this is back in the early 90s, the race director who was getting ready to start us off, he said, look around you. He said, many of you that are standing here will not reach the finish line today because the finishing rate was very low. Mm-hmm. But he said, those of you that make it, you'll be a changed person. You'll cross that finish line as a different person than the one that's standing here right now at the starting line. He said, you will learn more about yourself in these 100 miles than you previously knew in a lifetime. And I thought, wow, that's that's going to be a journey. If I can make it, let's see what happens. And he was right. And I think anyone that's done an ultra marathon feels the same way, that you reach that finish line and you know more about yourself and you learn more about yourself than anything you've done before.
You then have ran Western states 12 times.
13 now.
13 times. I missed one. 13 times. Crazy. And you ran Badwater, Death Valley Ultra Marathon, amazing 10 times, right?
And I told my family I was going to stop at 10. Every year, the race director contacts me and he says, are you going to sign up again? Or are you going to come back after it? And I say, Chris, I told my family I was only going to do it 10 times. But I think I'm going to go back. I so miss that race, especially now that, the race was very much altered. Mm-hmm. I want to go back and do the Badwater. Yeah.
But there is 50 and some degrees Celsius in the night. There is cooling down to, 45 or something like that, like 120 degrees.
I tell people they must go out and experience it. I mean, you don't have to race the whole Badwater Ultra Marathon, but if you travel out to Death Valley in the summer and you just go for a run, you'll see how intense it is. It's unlike any place in the world. And I mean, I've been to the Sahara, I've been to Namibia, I've been to a lot of deserts, but Death Valley is just a whole nother level of intensity.
So what's your favorite running distance? Let's say it's a marathon, it's a, I don't know, 100 miles, it's 10K maybe.
I like the long runs. So, anything to me above 200 miles
200
is
miles.
kind of my sweet spot. So I really, especially as I'm getting older, let's be honest,
Okay.
I like doing the longer distances over multiple days. To me, it's more about an adventure and a journey than a run. But I also like marathons. I mean, I see you have a lot of medals behind you. I run somewhere around 300 marathons, maybe more. So I still like running just regular road marathons. I enjoy that experience equally as well. It's more of a, you can see that when I start a marathon, as when any ultra marathon starts a marathon, you kind of know you're going to reach the finish line. It's more quantifiable. Like it's not some infinite distance that you may or may not reach. You know that you've done it many times before and you'll probably get there again, but it's still a fun journey.
I finished maybe 60, 65 marathons. I have friends that ran about 100, 150, something like that, but no one that did already 300 marathons. So you've forgotten more marathons that I ever ran. So talking about marathons, why run a marathon? Why not run 50 marathons in 50 days in 50 states? That's one of your projects. And what was amazing about that, not just running, you organized 42 events in between as a regular marathon events. You gave public lectures, you appear in the media in the meantime, you have to travel every day. How much did you sleep in those almost 2 months?
Not much.
Not much.
Some nights it was only a few hours because you're right. I'd run the marathon and then I had many obligations. So it wasn't just running the marathon and then, going to the next marathon. It was running the marathon, talking with people, signing books, doing some media interviews. These are all the things that I had to do because we set it up so other runners could join me. When I first thought of this endeavor, I thought, I don't want it to be just about Dean. Like, it can't be just about one guy going out there and, pounding my chest, look what I did. I said, I want to invite others to experience some of what I might experience, to share. And so we had many other runners, sometimes 100, 200 runners coming out and running by my side. So that made the experience that much more fulfilling, but that much more intense. So I remember many nights going to sleep well past midnight and getting up before the sunrise and wondering, how am I going to do this today? I'm so tired and so exhausted. How am I going to run a marathon? But somehow at the end of 50 days, I was still standing and still running.
I watched the documentary Ultramarathon Man 50, and you're running, no matter what, it was day 2 or day 25, looks so smooth and easy. While other runners struggled, you talk, you encourage other people, you congregate, you have fun. How did you make it look so easy? It was just the nature of your continuous moving, or what?
Yeah, I felt I had to keep going. I had an obligation to try my best. But to me, a lot of it was really fun. It was a fun experience. There are certainly people that were struggling on many marathons, and it was great to join together with them and share their struggle. And we became a big team. So every day there was a different dynamic with the people. It was almost as though it was a completely different set of circumstances every day. Some days there were, the weather was cold and rainy. Other days it was hot. And the dynamic between the people, the interpersonal dynamics, made every day different and interesting. So I just thought, enjoy it, do the best you can. Just you may or may not make it. You don't know. The future's uncertain. But the commitment I had is that I'm just going to try my very best. Like if I fail, I will be satisfied in knowing that I tried my best. That I was never going to compromise in anything, and that I think made it all the more meaningful. Is that I was able to keep going and enjoy the experience.
And for the final touch, you did the New York City Marathon. Not just for the final marathon, but for the fastest. You ran it 3 hours flat and almost beat Lance Armstrong.
Yeah, I was a few seconds, literally like 10 or 15 seconds behind Lance. And I'll never forget, I saw him at the finish line. Like he crossed the finish line and he was destroyed. I mean, I was not expecting to see him like that. I mean, he looked horrible. I mean, he had salt. When someone looks like they're very dehydrated, they have salt crust all over him. And he was hunched over, and people were trying to pat him on the back, and he was just hunched over. And they basically pulled up a black, like a town car, like a Suburban, and they just put him in the back of this thing. And I just remember him getting in, and you could tell his legs were cramping. And I thought, wow, that was really, for him to run one marathon was really tough. It surprised me. I thought he'd be able to do it no problem.
To ask you about the humanitarian aspect of your running, this is present from the beginning of your running, even before, 50 project, even in your first book, you write about kids that you are raising money for, and you raised as a philanthropist with your own charity millions of dollars, and you still do. Is that an added incentive to you to go out every day, or to give something back to the people because you are able to run instead of them, like, let's say?
Well, I mean, running can be a very selfish pursuit. I mean, I think it's, sometimes I feel like, it's just about me, and I am not that kind of person. So it gives deeper meaning to give back. And I think that if people have the ability to give back and help others that are less fortunate, that they have an obligation to do so. And I'm just trying to fulfill my obligation. I mean, that's how I was raised. And I know that not every society understands this dynamic. I mean, when I go to some places like Japan, for instance, it's very different. Like, you take care of yourself and your family take care of you. And we're here, like in America, we have a lot of people that are, we have a homeless, especially in San Francisco where I live, we have a big problem with homeless. We have a lot of people that are less fortunate than I am. So I just feel like I need to do my part in helping others that don't have the opportunities I have.
Great. So you inspire and motivate so many people, but how does Deana Karnazes motivate himself to run these superhuman distances every day, every year, whole life?
I always say, if you're motivated, you don't need a lot of motivation. I mean, I'm like you, I think, and like a lot of others. I love to run. I still love it. I'm still passionate about it. That passion's never gone away. So I think that, to me, I always tell my kids, motivation is tough if you're not motivated. I think that, I am motivated. So I don't think it's as hard for me to get out of bed and go running. Now, are there days when I don't want to go running? Yes, there are. And what do I do in those sort of days? I go running. Sometimes it just comes down to discipline. You know this. Sometimes you just have to drag yourself out of bed and drag yourself out the door and get the job done. But mostly it's pleasurable.
It's never a bad run after you finish it. Never.
No, I've never once come back from a run feeling worse than when I left. I mean, even a bad run is better than no run.
I agree 100%. So after you finished 50 marathons in 50 states, and the next day, you gone out and ran another 50 marathons in one take from New York City to where the project started to St. Louis, right?
The 50 marathons, as you see in the book, it became like a thing that had a life of its own. I mean, I was on, Conan O'Brien. I was on something called Good Morning America, which is the largest television program in the U.S. So all of a sudden, it was just this huge media entity, and I lost some of my soul. I mean, to me, running is just about the simple pleasure of a man and a long roadway and a desire. So I said to my wife, I'm going to run back from New York to California. We live on the West Coast.
Yeah.
And she said, I wish you would. Next morning, I bought a jog stroller, the strollers you push kids in.
Yeah.
And I put all my gear in there and headed out from New York and just started running back to California. And that's over 5,000 kilometers.
Crazy.
And I slept, I had a little tent. So sometimes I slept outside. Sometimes people would find me and I'd sleep on their couch. But it was very much a different experience than running with all those people and cameras on me all the time. It was just me out there running, and I love that.
This is adventure for its own book. If you have nothing to write about, you have another book already set there. So you burned an amazing 160,000 calories in these 50 marathons. How do you refuel your body with this kind of torture and running all the time?
Well, I think I'll never live down the story of ordering pizza delivered to me when I was out running. Everyone loves that story.
Pizza is legendary. What kind of pizza do you recommend during marathon? One friend, when I ask my friends to give me some questions for you, one of them said, "What kind of pizza Dean recommend during the marathon?"
That's a great question, whoever asked, because I've learned that like the pepperoni pizza. Oh no, it's too spicy. Like it gives you heartburn. So don't get the pepperoni. I love the Hawaiian style. I don't know. Have you ever heard of Hawaiian style?
It's
pineapple.
Pineapple. Yeah, I said it. Pineapple. It is.
A little sweeter, and so I always get the Hawaiian style. But you ask him also. You tell the pizza guy that he should give it to you with a very thin crust, so not a thick crust, and don't tell him not to slice it.
Okay.
And then when they deliver it, you just roll it into this big big log of pizza, and you just eat it as you run.
So pizza it is, and coffee beans with chocolate, right?
Yeah, espresso beans. Yep,
espresso. I tried to find this in Slovenia, but no runner and no chocolate seller didn't know this product. So, but it seems perfect. It's caffeine, it's sugar, it's everything.
I am surprised you don't have those. I wish I could send you some. They're magic. I think you need to start a food company and start exporting. Only this product, I think, in this running community, it will be instant hit. So not only 200 miles in one take, you once ran 350 miles non-stop. This is 560 kilometers, if I calculated right. This is in 80 hours, 3 nights, without sleep, without rest. Didn't you invented sleep running at this run, ain't you? Yes, so I ran through one night without rest, and that was fine. I ran through the second night without rest, and that was a little more difficult. But the third night, I was running, and I found myself running in the middle of in the road. And I thought, why am I running down the middle of the road? That's dangerous. I know better than that, So I moved back over to the side of the road, and then it happened again. I found myself running in the middle of the road, and I realized that I was falling asleep, but I was just willing my body to keep going. So I'd run and wake up, and that was not very pleasant. It scared me a little bit. But the funny thing is, after I fell asleep, I felt better. Like I felt like my body had a little nap, and that I was re-energized. The thing that really got to me is that the next morning, so it was after 3 nights with no sleep, I was running, and I looked down, and I'll never forget, I saw it looked like a little stick figure, like a little bug, praying mantis running, right at my feet, this praying mantis, just slightly in front of me. And I'm looking at this praying mantis almost in a trance. And it hit me that was not a praying mantis, that was me. Like I was looking down at my body from above, almost like an out-of-body experience. And that was a little freaky.
Some
I thought,
people,
maybe this is what happens right before you die and you go to heaven.
Some people take drugs to have these feelings, but running is much, much better. I know also a guy in history who could run that far without sleep. It was called Pheidippides, and it was from Greece. And he ran from Athens to Sparta and back, and then to Marathon and back to Athens when he finally died. You traveled to Greece a few years ago to run a Spartathlon, but not just that. You also tried to find a route, a trace of Pheidippides' original running track, right?
Yes, so there is an organized race called the Spartathlon, which you probably know of, and that follows pretty much the roadway. And it's some of it is similar to the route that Pheidippides would have followed, but there were other areas that were different. So I wanted to try to retell the story of the original marathon, which was in 490 BCE, so 2,500 years ago. And to do that, I tried to follow some of the ancient pathways that he had followed and tried to understand how 2,500 years ago, with no headlamp, no GPS, no markers to follow, how this man would have navigated, that distance, 150 miles, to get to Sparta. Like, how could someone do this? I mean, we know the story, but when you get right down to it and you analyze how could a runner 2,500 years ago in sandals with no athlete food, no hydration pack, none of the stuff that we have today, how could he have done this? And it was remarkable to think how an athlete, how strong he must have been compared to us today. Because even with all the modern things that I have, I found it very difficult to reproduce what he did.
But you done this race in a very unique way. You eaten only what Pheidippides would eat. So figs, olives, honey, some cured meat, right?
Yeah, that's what they had. I mean, they didn't have electrolyte replenishment fluid. They had water, and he would have to forage for food along the way. So, and water. He'd have to stop at streams to get water. So I tried to only drink water and only eat these foods to see if I could reproduce the experience. And it was as tough as anything I've ever done.
The book is awesome. As I already said it, I recommend it to everybody. And I wonder, when I followed your career, why you are full-blooded Greek, 100% Greek. You didn't go to Spartathlon earlier, because in Europe, in Slovenia, the Spartathlon is the father of all ultra races. Is the hardest, the biggest. But maybe in US, it's don't have such a status, or what?
It's not as big in the US. The Badwater Ultra Marathon is the big event here. Mm-hmm. And so I always focused on the Badwater. And I wish I would have done the Spartathlon many years ago when I was stronger and faster, because, I waited a long time before I entered the Spartathlon. And once I did, I saw the magic. I saw how spectacular the race is. And I also saw, like you said, how popular it is in Europe. So it was like the like UTMB. I ran UTMB, I think in 2004 the first time. The second year they had it.
It's huge now. It's huge.
It's huge now. It's huge, and it's so popular in Europe. Where here in the U.S. it's now become a thing as well. But I wish I would have run the Spartathlon, 10 or 20 years ago.
Maybe 20 years ago, also in toga or in tunic with sandals. It's quite hard.
I've traveled to so many places. There's only so many places you can go to. I mean, I spent 20 years traveling, and the world is a big place.
Of course, but genetically you are made for running. So you have impressive muscles, leg muscles, especially calves. You have perfect biomechanic, and you have one special trait. You can flush lactic acid from your muscles almost instantly. Like some sort of superhuman. That is not a feature that everybody else in running community possess, right?
Well, I mean, I think that anyone that has endurance, so anyone that has been aerobically trained, is going to be better at removing lactic acid than just a couch potato or a person that doesn't run. So all of us runners have this ability. But I have a more unique ability. Like when they tested me, they said they've never, even in the Olympians they've tested, they haven't seen anything like this before. And I should qualify that this is not speed. So they're not analyzing speed. They're analyzing endurance. So how long, can you endure before you start getting muscle cramps and things like that? I've never had a muscle cramp or an injury. And I've run with people and seen them get muscle cramps, and it looks horrible. I don't ever want one. It looks really bad. It looks so painful. Have you ever had a muscle cramp?
Not many. I'm also I don't know, in the safe side. Maybe because I as a younger runner run a lot in the hills, and I have also strong calves and muscles. So maybe this is or genetic trait. I don't know. I have to ask my father if he has it. But
Slovenia is very close to Greece, so maybe you have it as well.
Maybe it's only 1,000 miles from my home to Athens. So if I started running, I have 2 weeks and I'm there. But you really look awesome. You look like 20 years younger as you are. You have a muscle, not as a runner, but as a wrestler. What's your secret? You cross train. What do you do for your physique? Let's say.
I do a lot of cross training. So mostly with body weight, a lot of push-ups, a lot of pull-ups, a lot of what burpees are.
Yes. I know.
Throughout the day, I'm constantly moving. I also never do something that you're doing right now. You're sitting down.
Yeah, you're standing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So all day long, I'm on my toes. Like when I'm writing, I'm bouncing around. And then, like before we got on the interview, I did what's called HIIT training. So this high intensity interval training, and it's push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, chair dips, and burpees. And it's about a 12-minute routine that gets my heart rate very elevated. And I'll do that 4 or 5 times, maybe 6 times throughout the course of the day. Just whenever I'm feeling a little drowsy or I want to get my blood flowing, I'll do a round of HIIT training. Great
recipe. You're one of 100 most influential people by Time magazine. You were the fittest man on the planet, endurance athlete of the year. You carried the Olympic torch twice, right? You're a best-selling author and motivational speaker. You are a celebrity. So how do you handle and cope with all this fame and even notoriety, as you once said?
I go running. No, let's be honest. Running is the most humbleizing force, right? I mean, you can think you're some big guy, and you're popular, and your ego can get the better of you, and then you go running, and it cuts you down to size. You realize that you struggle, and you feel pain just like everyone else. So I think running is a great neutralizer.
Great. What's your relationship with pain? You said the resilience is the key, but what's your relationship with the sensation when everything in your body screams stop and your head is blown up? How can you handle that with all this experience you have now?
I embrace pain, so I look forward to pain. I think when I'm standing on the starting line, I'm thinking, okay, the pain is going to come. Bring it on. Let's see if this, if this can stop me. I think a lot of people think, I hope this is the race I don't have any pain. And as we know, if you don't have any pain, you're not trying hard enough, right?
Of course.
So I think that I welcome the pain. I think that overcoming pain and dealing with adversity it makes us feel alive. I think, the moments that we reflect back on in our life with the most pride is not the easy moments, it's the difficult moments where we've overcome and we've persisted and we've endured. So I personally find pain a challenge and a triumph. And instead of trying to eliminate pain from my life, I welcome it.
You have one more big project ahead of you. You did run all the deserts. You ran all 7 continents twice. You have crossed the world with your legs, but you want to run a marathon in every country in the world in 1 year, right?
That's my goal, and this was maybe going to be the year. So I think that I've been planning this for about 7 years, literally, and trying to get the passports and the permits and all of the authorizations has been really difficult. It would be a lot easier if I wasn't Deana Karnazesa. If I could just slip over to the border in North Korea and run a marathon and come back over to South Korea. But because I'm so visible, I have to have all the diplomatic channels open, and this was looking like a year it could come together, but now with the pandemic, I can't imagine how many more years it's going to be delayed. But I think that just makes the story more interesting.
To Slovenia, we can help you with the organization. I know almost every organizer in Slovenia, so we can put the heads together and make this event very special for Deana Karnazesa, let's say in year 2024. It's like...
Well, and I'm going to sleep on your couch. They didn't tell you?
No, no problem. I will just put the kids in the shed. Okay. So what is your most exotic place that you ever run? So you conducted one special diplomatic mission in Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, right? It was that most exotic or anything else?
I think, yeah, being a U.S. Athlete ambassador, and I ran across Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Kazakhstan. That was pretty exotic.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a lot of running in Central Asia.
Yeah.
So I was on the ancient Silk Road, and that is a place I'd love to return to. It was very exotic, and I had a lot of diplomatic obligations, but I'd like to go back and just run, because everything there, the architecture was different. Being an American, you're so used to seeing a Starbucks coffee shop, on every corner, and a McDonald's. I didn't see any McDonald's. I didn't see any Starbucks. I mean, it was wonderful in that regard. So the world is a big place, and I still have a lot of places although I've seen a lot of places, I still have a lot of places I want to visit.
Your new book is coming out soon, right? A Runner's High next year, right?
I think you will like this book. Yes, I think this book is much more similar to my first book.
You are returning to your roots, right?
Returning to my roots as an older and wiser man. So, Ultramarathon Man was about discovering ultramarathoning, and now that I've been an ultramarathoner for a couple decades, it's a different game now, right? It's how do you sustain yourself? How do you stay true to what you love? How do you make a living? All of these sort of things. and how do you find joy still in running 100-mile races. So a lot of ways it's a philosophical journey and a physical and an emotional journey. So I think this book is probably my best of all of them.
Awesome. Can't wait to have it. Have a copy here. And you mentioned philosophy. You study Greek philosophers, and what can running teach us that could be expressed with ancient philosophy, let's say?
Oh, there's so many lessons, but lessons about perseverance, about commitment, about sacrifice, about finding pleasure in simple activities. I mean, running, as we know, is very simple. And a lot of people say to me, isn't running boring? And I say it is, and that's a good thing. Especially here in America, we are so overwhelmed with technology and news and just so much noise coming at us. Running quiets the inner man. So I think that finding that inner peace is essential. And the other thing to me that's very important about running, because I run a lot on the trails in nature, is having a relationship with the outdoors, with nature. I think a lot of people have no relationship at all with nature. They live in their man-made house. They get in their car. They travel to a man-made building. They get on the elevator. They go to their desk. They're in a man-made cubicle. They don't ever go and experience nature. Where to me, I'm most alive when I'm out by myself in nature. I have a relationship and a love of nature that is very, I think, holistic. Because as human beings, that's where we came from, right? I mean, we came from the great outdoors, and we've basically eliminated the great outdoors for most of our lives. So I think having a relationship with nature is very important.
So in the age of social media, we have to teach our kids to connect with the nature first, not only with their devices, right?
Social media it's a blessing and a curse. I mean, it can introduce people to nature because, like, I take a lot of pictures in natural places, and people say, wow, that looks amazing. I want to visit there. So if I can inspire someone to get outdoors, that's a good thing. But I also think that, screen time should be kind of limited. At least it should be managed. It should be not your whole life. It can be some of your life, especially for a kid. But I think if you're consumed with the screen, that's very unhealthy.
So when can we expect a movie, a motion picture, The Ultramarathon Man?
Well, it's funny you ask. I sold movie rights to my first book, Ultramarathon Man. So the movie probably will start filming next year.
Awesome. Maybe who will play you as a very young man, because you can play yourself from 32 to eternity.
Yeah, well, I can't. I'm not allowed. They don't, like the contract I signed, they don't let me say who it is.
Oh,
but I think you'll like who it is. It's very
awesome. So next year.
The other thing in my contract I said is that anyone who's attached with making the movie, both acting and filming and directing, they have to be a runner. I said they have to be, because Hollywood, like I am a surfer as well. And Hollywood has made so many bad surfing movies. It's so obvious that whoever made the movie doesn't actually surf. And I said, it'd be very easy for Hollywood to make a bad running movie unless the people involved are runners. So the one stipulation I made for the lead actor who's playing me is they have to run an ultra marathon.
Oh,
they have to do it, because they won't be able to act authentically unless they've actually gone out there and done it. So I've got to go running pretty soon. So
we're sorry, it's 45 minutes already gone. Just the final question. You're returning to Greece next year, right? You are ambassador of running there, 10 days, 10 marathons, something like that. Next March is the bicentennial, so the 200-year anniversary of Greek independence. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to run a 10-day event across Greece to commemorate the 200 years of independence on Greek Independence Day. Awesome. Maybe we can.
Why don't you run down and join me?
I will maybe fly down and join you for one marathon. Because if I have to run down, I have to start now. Just the final question: what would you say to our audience, to our listeners and viewers? Why start running and why then never stop?
I think it's once you start running, it gets in your blood, right? We all know this. I mean, sometimes it's just 1 or 2 times of running, it enters you. And I think that running is the purest form of athletic expression. You don't need anything, right? You just need a pair of shoes and some shorts, and you can be a runner. You don't need a bat. You don't need wheels. You don't need anything. So I would encourage people to get out and try. You don't have to go fast. You just have to go. So just get out there and try to run for 15 minutes straight. See if you can run 15 minutes. And if you get there, try to run for 30 minutes. But I encourage you to try to work up to a marathon. I think any person that's run a marathon is a richer person. And I think that any marathoner knows this very well. So we're a running community globally. I think that you and I can relate to each other, and I can probably relate to your audience. Anyone watching this, we have this intimate connection, and that's a universal thing. It's across the globe, and one day you and I will run together, and when that day happens, I'll be very happy.
I'm looking forward. Dear Deana Karnazesa, stay healthy, stay awesome as you are. I thank you for the great conversation. I hope we'll be in touch in the future. So never stop exploring. Deana Karnazesa, ultramarathon man. Thank you for your time. Have fun wherever you will be. Thank you very much. We will follow your adventures in the future. Thank you, Dean.
We'll be in touch.
We'll be in touch. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Go running.
Certainly there's a lot of runners that are running from things. There are also people that are running to things. I think a lot of people run for the pure satisfaction of running, and they're not trying to escape anything. For me, I guess it's a little of both. I mean, I think, maybe lost myself a bit at the end of the Endurance 50, and I figured if I start running somewhere out there on the road, I'll find myself. And I think I have. It took about 1,200 miles, but I think I found my soul again.
Tole je bilo mega. Spoštovani in spoštovane, Deana Karnazesa je še vedno izjemen človek, izjemen tekač, izjemno inspirativen. Srbijo me pete, verjeli ali ne. Zdajle grem jaz, pa predlagam, da greste tudi vi mogoče pogledati ven, zagaziti malo v sneg, raztegniti svoje krake, poslušati tole še enkrat, ker je res odlično. Če je bilo tudi vam všeč, lahko šerate, lahko lajkate, lahko se naročite, lahko tudi donirate. Bom zelo vesel, hvaležen. Ostanite zdravi, ostanite zagreti za tek. S podcastom se vrnem spet naslednji teden. Hvala in srečno!